What's up, everyone, and welcome to the first ever edition of Conservative Hockey Talk. Uh, I'm one of your hosts, Danny P. Alongside me, I got Doug. How's it going today, buddy?
Doing all right, doing all right. I'm excited for this, I guess, new branch to see how it goes. I know we both have some pretty strong opinions, amongst ourselves. So it's great to be able to share them. It's a different change of pace than what we were doing with the regular hockey talk, but I feel like it's important. Me personally, I'm 33. I've tried to stay out of politics. I know what's going on, but you try and stay out of it. As much as you can, especially on social media and stuff like that, because I feel like it's all overrun and all that. But over the last 3 or 4 years, it just seems like it's kind of hard to avoid and kind of hard to stay out of. And I feel like it's pretty important, to get your opinion out there and all that. And I mean, obviously, based on discussions we've had, off camera and stuff like that, we both share pretty similar viewpoints. So I'm excited for this kind of new, I guess, direction that we've decided to take the podcast, and I'm looking forward to see where this goes.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I'm 30, I'm 32 myself, so it's been interesting, and essentially to sort of kind of wrap up everything that happened with the last podcast for the people who sort of kind of were have been with us throughout this whole little adventure. Adam and I were working together, and essentially he started promising to pay me extra money for doing extra work that was considered his work, and he just kept on failing to actually pay me out and just turned into a whole ordeal where he ended up owing me a couple grand while I was living with him. And finally, he shorted a check a couple $100, and finally, I just had enough with it and left. So, with flipping pucks and chucking ducks sort of kind of being our creation and whatnot between me and Adam, we just felt that Doug and I, when talking, decided that it was really just best for us and for the new direction we sort of kind of want the podcast as it was. So just completely scrap it and start all over. So here we are with conservative hockey talk, and I'm super excited as well. I think this is going to open up a lot of doors for both Doug and I, because we have been talking a lot about this. I remember going to pickups and whatnot, and 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, me and you just hanging out in the parking lot, just talking about how we see the world and why people are doing this and why people are doing that. It doesn't make any sense. But here we are. Super excited to start this. But with all that being said, you have let's get down to the nitty gritty of it all. And Ukraine and Russia and this whole now war, essentially, that started off as a small conflict of maybe they will, maybe they won't, has turned into a full scale war at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to avoid now. You turn on any TV, anything, you just hear about it. I'm shocked how quickly it happened. It's only been like a week and a half, but it feels like this has been going on for quite a while, and it's not just affecting people over there. It's starting to affect people in America and stuff like that. I sympathize with the people of Ukraine. I've seen pictures and video and stuff like that, and it looks really brutal over there. And unfortunately, I feel like it's really just the beginning of this, and I feel like it's only going to get worse as time passes on. Do I think we're going to get involved? I don't know. Um, I really don't know at this point. I think they're going to try to stay out of it. We're going to try to stay out of it as much as we can, but I would not be surprised if in the near future here that they talk about the U.S. kind of trying to mobilize over there.
Yeah, and it's extremely scary thought, because one day I don't think we've seen Russia's full power. I feel like Russia's being super strategic in Ukraine. I really don't think that it doesn't seem like, for the longest time, for the absolute longest time, it was, the United States military number one, and then number two was Russia, and then number three was China. And it sort of kind of just seems like we haven't in their full force. Because let's be honest here, I feel like if they really wanted to, knock Ukraine off the map, they could. So it feels like they're just trying super hard to be very precise in what they're doing. But with all that being said, I do feel like an American intervention in Ukraine is probably the worst thing for the world. I completely agree and I sympathize with the Ukrainians, but at the end of the day, the United States getting involved there is very much the start of World War III, and I don't think that it is. United States responsibility to govern and protect everyone in the world. We like to be the helpful, we like to be quote unquote that bigger brother, but it's just not it's not in the world's best interest right now. It really isn't because, you know, one nuke here, two nukes, three nukes, how many innocent civilians are going to end up dying for what cost? I feel like there was a very, Russia had this very clear expectation that they didn't want NATO and countries immediately surrounding them for a very good reason, right? Which is essentially the fact that they don't want nukes, in Ukraine pointing at Russia. That being said, this really needs to become more of a diplomacy issue and not a war thing. Maybe if it comes down to saying, hey, where would be a good invisible line for you guys if we really want to split Ukraine in half. Like uh, it's frustrating because we should have never gotten to this point. Ukraine shouldn't have had to die. I don't really know what exactly Ukraine feels like they're going to get by joining NATO besides a war. You know what I mean? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, and unfortunately, and I 100% agree with you that I don't think it's something we should be involved in. But at the same time, because America's been such, a superpower, like you were saying, kind of seen as the protector of everyone, and because of our past involvement in other countries, I feel like everyone's looking to the United States to like do something, to intervene in some way. I mean, it is a horrible
Hmm.
situation, but I also agree, like it's not something. The second we we go try to intervene and do something is the second, all right, well, then Russia's in a quote unquote war with us. I don't think they'll declare it right away, but like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not what we need. With them being a superpower as well, you just have that mutually assured destruction where it's a lot different than it was in 1942 with and with Hitler and stuff like that. It's a
Hmm.
lot different. I mean, you don't have to be on the land to strike the other country, and with Russia having advanced technology and China being where they're at too with them, I just think it'd be a bad look for everyone. I it's tough because I do get it. I do get the want and desire to help out, but I think to protect ourselves and not get involved in something like this is probably ideal.
Yeah, and you bring up China, and that's I think what scares me a little bit more is the China aspect of it, because China has been trying to make claim to Taiwan for almost a year now, a year and a half, and that's a super scary thought that if they were to also get involved, because Russia is one thing with the size of the country, how massive it is, and the population, but China is completely different. That is a different animal. You're talking about a country with 1 billion people in it. You're not talking about, United States has, I think it's like 360, 370. You're talking about 1 billion people who are, who the whole, their whole thing is being well educated, being very, they've got very, you know, what's the word I'm looking for here? Very, very organized, very, very, in this box, you live in this box. You don't sort of kind of, you don't venture out. I was watching something that said that, those kids are in China are in school 10 hours a day, and essentially, and they live at the schools. Like these are like primary schools. This isn't like college. They live at the schools and they only see their families on Sundays. Do you really want to go into a war with the teenagers and the young adults that we have now? Who who can't if they don't have vegan milk they're freaking the fuck out, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't imagine. uh it's just two different cultures right now that China would destroy us. I personally think that, being as much of a patriot and diehard as I am, I don't want anything to do with a war with China.
Yeah, yeah, that's I guess that's my thing too. Kind of going back to my point about it being a lot different period of time now than it was, back when World War II is going on. Because everyone's saying this is, could potentially be World War III. I feel like we've gotten soft as a country, and that's going to reflect in our military and the military presence. It kind of hurts to say a little bit, but I mean, I'm sure I know we were talking about it earlier, but you saw the Russian armies, like I guess propaganda to join their military and stuff, and then you saw the ones that the U.S. was putting out, and it's all about inclusivity, which is fine, but not
Hmm.
in that arena. I don't think, and I think that
Yeah.
not because it's a bad thing, right? But I think because it maybe attracts people to join for the wrong reasons, and I think to really have
Mhm.
a strong presence, um, you have to be strong. Like you have to have people who want to be there. You have to have people who understand that what war is, right? And granted, I've never served in the armed forces, but it can't just be, hey, join, because that video. I mean, the video just made it seem like it would be fun, right? And it was a way to, it was kind of something
Yeah.
to check off. You went to college, you did this, you did that. But it's not a vacation. You know what I mean? You need people who actually, and to
Mhm.
your point, looking at Russia and China and stuff like that, I feel like their military is more
Yeah.
stronger, just based on the desire that their people have, who are and Russia has conscription and stuff like that. But I feel like it's less volunteers and more people who are willing to die and understand, I guess, the repercussions of being in the service. Whereas I feel like we've kind of steered away from that. So I feel like we would
Yeah.
not be as, yeah, I feel like it's soft. I hate to say soft, but I feel like we'd be softer, just in general. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So it also comes down to like national pride as well, which is something that I feel like the younger generation doesn't have nearly as much of. You know what I mean? Where we've sort of kind of growing up in in our younger 30s and early 30s, we still have that. You know, if Uncle Sam called today and said, "Hey, both of you, let's go front lines," we wouldn't bat an eyelash. You might have to pack up all your perfume and whatnot and to get but we would understand what we're being called to do and respond appropriately. Where like some of these other generations, I feel like they wouldn't want to do it. Fuck it, I don't care. I'll learn Russian or some shit. And that's just the wrong attitude to have because people don't understand how rare it is to live in a country like the United States. You know, where like this is the first time like that this type of government has existed ever, where like it's a republic, just a republic in a democracy, and all these other times it's we've tried to go about doing this, it's always fallen into socialism or communism or a dictatorship, and with everything going on in the world today, and especially with how Biden's America, it's very scary to sort of kind of think where we could potentially be at in 10 years. But going sort of kind of back to the Ukraine thing, one of the things I sort of kind of thought was a little bit funny was not necessarily funny, but all men in Ukraine from 18 to 60 were asked to stay in Ukraine to fight. And you know what we didn't hear anything from? The feminists. I think that the feminists should have been on their, you know, those Karens of the world should have been, letting their managers know that they want to be there too, fighting for their country, you know. So that to me was sort of kind of the ultimate, well, here it is type of ordeal, where no one's really complaining about the fact that they're not being asked to stay, when in actuality it's your country just as much as it is the men's, right? So that to me was very discouraging in the fact that like both me and you agree on this, and I'll sort of let you speak for yourself, but like I'm all for equality and all that stuff, but it's the moments like this where you prove half of these guys right, half of us that are saying, well, do you really want equality or just want to sort of kind of be deemed better than us? Do you want for us to build the world just for you to live in it? And it's extremely discouraging to sort of kind of see how that all played out.
Yeah. And that's kind of, I mean, I agree, and I feel like it over there it makes a little bit more sense than it does here, because I feel like we've kind of turned towards wanting women and to be in the military, army, and all that. But that's also another reason why I don't think we would do well in if this turned into World War III. um because yeah, and because the whole feminism and the equality thing, I'm trying to dance around it, but I really think it should be predominantly men, to be honest. And but I
Hmm.
also don't think you can sit there and make that claim of, I want equality, I want equality, I want equality, and then when your number's called, be like, no, I didn't mean equality there. You know what I mean? and
Yeah.
so that, I guess that's where I'm at with it. Like I'm fully in support of the Ukraine just calling their men to stay and fight because I think that gives them the better chance. That said, I would much rather them like the women stay and fight than us get involved, right? Like
Hmm.
it's their country. At the end of the day, it's really not our. I don't want to say problem, but I mean it really isn't. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I think that would more affect us. Should we enter an actual world war? I think you'd see more of this issue coming to light. And I actually do see it, coming in the near future. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. You want equality, you want equality, you want equality, but only certain portions of it. And I feel like
Right.
that's been pretty evident over the last couple of years, even outside of what's going on in the Ukraine with Russia and all that.
Yeah. So on the topic of modern feminism, one of the topics I think we both wanted to sort of kind of share our opinion on is sort of how essentially feminism has sort of kind of turned very toxic into a situation where it's really hard for the world to sort of kind of continue being at any level of peace. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like it's we understood, hey, you guys wanted to vote 100%. Hey, you guys want equal pay? We're there for you. But then it sort of kind of seems like we've taken a really weird road now where it's almost like a lot of these women just would be treated like they're one of the guys. And then if they are treated like one of the guys, well, no, I didn't mean it like that. So it's sort of kind of a really weird case where it's like you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, and that's really just not how the world works. um it's there, and there's so much great content out there. Jordan Peterson does a great job of it, where like a woman's talking about how some 98% of certain types of wealth are all by men, but like you're a lot of people, they look at these numbers and then like, oh, well, it's because women can't do these jobs. Well, women don't want to do those jobs. There are certain jobs, like perfect example, something he brought up was like 97% of bricklayers are men, and that's a decent job. Well, why don't you guys fight for the equality there? Have females become bricklayers because it's a decent paying job. Another industry is a perfect example, which I was a part of, which was truck driving. It's stupidly men. It's probably almost 99% men. Whenever you do see a female truck driver, it's like, oh shit, you're a girl. It's a whole ordeal, right? But like that's a 70, 80, $90,000 once you start getting your experience up. It's a really good paying job, but it requires you to be on the road, to work your butt off, and to actually do these things away from the home, away from the house. It's not a glamorous lifestyle. You might go a couple days without a shower, but it requires you to have to sacrifice certain things when men are so much more willing to make that sacrifice and women aren't. And that's okay. But then don't come to us with the whole, we don't understand why this is happening, or this is happening, or this is happening. It's because you're not choosing the jobs that are necessarily, like perfect example is look at how many women do we hear that have like social studies degrees who don't end up using them. But then again, you've got men who go to trade schools, who pick up plumbing or contracting, or just guys who just go and enter in general labor. These are the big topics that are such different when it comes to stuff about like equality, that like is completely getting overlooked because you think you're a bad bitch who doesn't really have to work this job, who thinks they should just when they're going into the workforce just immediately have a 60, $70,000 job because a man has that job and you have a degree and maybe that man doesn't, and stuff like that, where it's outlandish at best.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree, and especially with these jobs that uh, women just think, and people in general, but think they're above, right? Like you said, the
Hmm.
trade school is predominantly mostly men, right? And a lot of those jobs aren't glamorous, but because of that, you do end up getting paid pretty decently, when you bide your time and you put in some years working there. But I think we're seeing it in sports as well. I mean, all the leagues, hockey, football, whatever, they're all pushing like and they say they're trying to grow the game and stuff, but you hear like the WNBA, they want to get paid the same as the men and stuff, and they think they're owed that based on
Hmm.
equality. But then you look at it and it's like, that how is that really equal when you're not bringing in the revenue that the men are? You see what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
we see you as equal. That's fine. We will pay you, millions of dollars if you bring in that revenue. But like to say, hey, I'm owed, $2 million because LeBron's getting paid that much or whatever. Obviously, he's getting paid a lot more than that. But like,
Hmm.
to say, when you could barely fill a college stadium or something, it's like, how is that really fair? And I wouldn't say that. And I guess this is the point I'm trying to get across. It's like, we're not looking down on women in that regard. It's just, we're treating you as equal, and if you're just not bringing in, you're not willing to do what men are willing to do to get that. And this is coming from someone who, me personally, like, I'm all for like gender roles and stuff like that, right? I think they have their place, and I'm for it. But also at the same time, as far as like marriage and relationships, I'm not gung ho. Wife stays at home, takes care of the kids, doesn't work. That's not where I'm coming from with this. Um,
Hmm.
but I think there is a real reason that viewpoint exists, and I think we're seeing those lines blurred. And now it's almost like, as a man, it's almost like you're looked down upon. I'm not sure if you get that same vibe, but I kind of get that vibe a
Hmm.
little bit, especially being a white man, and obviously we did have advantage. I mean, we've had advantages for years and years and years, but let's not pretend that's going on right now. It's almost
Right.
turning to the opposite, and
Right.
yeah. I guess that's my big thing with the whole feminism movement and stuff like that, and equality and stuff. Is like, I don't think anyone's really against equality. I just think there's no really right. You can't be half in, half out, and I feel like the movement wants to be half. They want to pick and choose, right? And you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely agree. Right. So like my thing is each person is different at the end of the day, right? So do whatever makes you happy. So if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, go for it. I'm all for that stuff. You know what I mean? If you want to go out there and work and be a truck driver, a truck driver, you want to be a welder, if you want to go, whatever, go for it. I'm all here for it. Make the same wage, everything. No one, I think you're right. No one's really trying to stop you from doing that. But my thing is like you said, you can't really pick and choose where you want it and where you don't. You want equality, 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 but then when a war comes, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to be a part of that. That's messed up at the end of the day. And that's where I don't think people really understand. Like you can't pick and choose with equality. It is or it isn't. And if you're trying to negotiate and going, getting the best of both worlds, where are you ending up? You're ending up with people essentially saying, well, you really don't want equality then. You just want to be better than everyone else. And it sort of kind of transitions over to like the dating world as well. Both of us being single bachelors, it's crazy how much change I've seen and you've seen, I'm sure, in like, the courtship and trying to date someone. I've had horror stories where like these girls, they talk about how much, how, one girl in particular who was working out at Chapel Hill loved talking about how much of a pro-feminist she was and this, that, the other. And I gave it a try. I said, what's the worst that can happen, right? And the girl, like, you want to talk about gaslighting and being master manipulator, like wanting to know my deepest, darkest fears and being really hesitant to open up to that level with anybody, and then she insisted, and then you do, and then she's like, oh, well, I'm not interested anymore. Well, hold on now. Like you want to, I learned about your stuff. Now you're hearing my, the stuff that's been problematic to me with relationships with parents and whatnot. Guess what? Like that's life, and it's crazy to me like when we start seeing how women say one thing and then they start kind of doing it, and then they claim, well, we're equal, we can both share our issues, we can both share our problems, and you sort of kind of like, okay, well, I'll give it a go, and you sort of kind of see how that backdoor reaction, which is, hey, I really don't want to hear your problems, I really don't want to hear this. You're supposed to be a man, you're supposed to have this quality and this quality and this quality. Well, then you don't want equality, then you don't want for us to both be treated to equal, because half of equality you know is having playing on the same playing field. You can both communicate emotions, you can both communicate desires and wants, and you can, there's a lot more to equality than just having the same job as a man and getting paid the same. You know, equality is also about relationships. Equality is also about, who's paying for things. And when those things, and when those things start, disappearing, where, I'm the type of person who I always buy. I always expect to buy. And if you try to buy, I'm probably going to, like, take your card and move it out of the way I can pay. That's just who I am, right? My grandparents, just the morals that my grandparents instilled in me. But it's like when you try to date now, it's like they pick and choose what exactly they want to be equal. If it is something like, being emotionally vulnerable, or, when it comes to like letting them pay for things, it seems like they're like, oh, where's the equality? Because sure, she ain't here. You know what I mean?
And I mean, I kind of to that, to kind of stay on that a little bit, with the whole paying thing. So that's kind of funny to me, because then it's like it's almost like had this switch where it's like, at least in dating, it's like, if you there are it's gotten to a point where it's like, if you don't let them pay, it's almost like offensive to them, right? Like
Right.
it's almost like belittling, to where it's like, oh, well, you don't think I can afford this myself, type. And I'm all for developing yourself personally and stuff like that, but that also goes back to kind of the gender role things too, as far as like dating and stuff goes. As a man, that's just what I'm gonna do, right? Like,
Right.
I'm gonna pick, if I asked you out, I'm gonna pick up the bill. That's the thing. It's not because I think you can't. Like, that thought has never been in my head. But
Hmm.
I think, like, the way feminine, and I feel like there are a lot of good qualities about that movement, but I feel like a lot of it's been skewed. But and with that, I feel like it has really infiltrated the dating scene, and made, and then but then at the same time they want like a man, right? But the type of men they're getting are not what they want, because they've totally neutered themselves, because they feel like they have to jump into this role that I guess society now is saying that men have to be. And totally, and this is coming from me, but you totally lose like the masculine aspect of the masculine feminine relationship. And at the heart of it, I think women do want, you know, the masculine man. And
Hmm.
there are certain things that I think come along with that. But and yeah, so I mean, kind of jumping on red flags. Anytime, you're swiping through the apps or whatever, and you see like a chick on the thing, feminism. I'm like, red flag, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh, completely.
I don't care how it could completely kill like any attraction,
Right.
and which kind of sucks. I mean, which sucks, especially because it seems like it's a lot of the prospects out there now have those same viewpoints.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating as well, because it completely, to me, a giant red flag. They could be the most beautiful. We have the same exact hobbies and interests and this, that, the other, and I could, like, do this cool. It would work perfectly. If, like, same type of personality, and then if I see this swing referring to a feminism thing, I'm like, okay, never mind. Because, like, if you feel the need to, like, in your 500, 600 characters, to say that's important enough to you that you have to, like, put it at the top of your at the on your profile, then I really don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? It's if it's a conversation starter for you, that, to me, it's a conversation ender. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, if you're gonna, there's huge, like, so there's huge difference between feminism and equality. If you put equality on your thing, quality for all, I'm here for it. But if you're saying, if you're really trying to talk about feminism, I don't know, because at this point in time, it's become such a topic where it's want. Oh, but I don't want that. It's like, if it's a perfect example. The perfect analogy for it is, if you order pizza and you ask for everything on it, you don't really get to pick and choose the olives or the onions or whatever else off of it if you've asked for everything. That's sort of kind of part of the pie.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess that's kind of how I feel about the whole situation. Is like, I feel like at the heart of it, the initial feminism movement had promise, but I feel like over the last 10, 15 years, and more so we're seeing it now, in the last 5 years, it just the definition has gotten very like skewed. it's
Hmm.
it's become less about equality, and like you said, yeah, and to me it's just, honestly, like, and maybe this is me saying something that makes me seem old, right? But I just feel like it's really happened over the last 5, 10 years, where it's really gotten out of hand, and people are now associating that term with other things, and it's really lost the heart of what it was. Because I really don't think you'll find many people who are against equal rights for women in regards to anything.
Hmm.
um, but now it's like, yeah, the pick and choosing, and it's really started to affect not even just like legal rights of women and stuff like that. It started to affect like your everyday interactions and stuff like that. And to the point about online dating, it's almost like to be fair, it's more of a liberal left kind of viewpoint
Mm.
and the extreme left, but like it's almost like as conservatives, I don't want to even put that in my profile because you automatically know people are going to
Oh,
look down upon you.
yeah, exactly.
And I feel like that's another thing where it's just been pushed so hard on social media and in the news and stuff like that, that it's like it's almost like, the scarlet letter is to say that, you lean right, and even if you're not like extreme right, even if you agree with some of the viewpoints, it's like it's just an initial like red flag towards men, if you not even just men but anyone who leans right. It's almost like you're afraid to say that. But then they'll play the victim, and they'll say like, no, being liberal or on the left and wanting all these things is looked down upon, when in reality I don't think it's been looked down upon for quite a while. I feel like it's been quite the opposite, especially over the last year and a half, 2 years with the election and Biden winning and stuff like that. I feel like every and the media and social media being run by predominantly liberals, and I feel like it's quite the opposite now. And yeah, and now all these apps, they want you to put that right,
Yeah,
like, and show your back, show your unbacks and stuff like that, and it's like those things are dividing us even more and making it even harder, not even in just dating but like just living.
yeah,
It's creating a
yeah,
divide.
definitely. Yeah, and that's a great point, Doug. So like, and something else I don't think that like women really have fully like thought through is like if you continue pushing things in this certain direction, what's going to end up happening is that like men are just going to start dating women from other countries. Like the most successful relationship I had was with a woman from China. We dated for about a year or so, and it was great. It was fantastic. Everything about her was amazing. Very feminine, very humble and whatnot. It didn't work out long term because of more of the financial aspect, where she wanted me to buy her house for $400,000, which I sort of kind of just couldn't do right off the bat. But I guess my thing was, um, in dating, and when men start dating people from other countries, and when they sort of kind of see the more feminine aspect of it, and then they start kind of see what they have to put up with if they were trying to date like an American or some of these play women from like Western countries. It's like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you really want to go back down that road? Because since I've dated her, I've tried dating a couple other women from America and whatnot, and it always seems to end poorly with like saying, well, you're just not really not that feminine at the end of the day, for like where like they're wanting to to pay for things, or they're wanting to um be more dominant in a relationship, and that's just not really what I want. I'm sort of kind of this. I'm a very dominant personality when I'm dating someone, and some of these women I don't think really get that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that speaks to the different cultures now. Obviously, over in these other countries and stuff, they still have that very like masculine, feminine culture, and that's what they expect, and that's what they want. And I think at the heart of like men and women biologically, that's what we want in relationships too, because it's a yin and yang. But over here, in the United States, I feel like we've been skewing that. And I mean, I wouldn't say the women are going to really regret it, because now they're just turning into men, so they'll probably date themselves. But yeah, it's a tough look. It's a bad look. I'll say that, and I definitely see more and more people doing that. And now with the dating apps and stuff, it's becoming even easier to meet people in these other countries that you wouldn't have been able to beforehand. Is it the best environment for it right now? Probably not with what's going on, but the accessibility is even greater now than ever has been. And I think if you can't, if a lot of men are struggling to find the type of people they want in the Western world because of the different values and how extreme it's become. I mean, they'll be able to find the perfect partner overseas, but it is a tough look for the
Yeah,
Western
so I
women.
don't know if you've heard what happened, what was going on in, I believe it was I'm pretty sure it was either Sweden or Norway. Essentially, like Swedish men were going to Thailand, essentially finding wives there and then bringing them back to Sweden. Um, and it's been going on for a while now. And the Swedish women who were elected officials were trying to make it more difficult for these Thai women to come into the country. And it wasn't like any woman, it was just specifically the Thai. And that to me was like, can you imagine if that happened here in the States, where we sort of kind of we chose one group of people that we didn't like and said, you guys can't come into the country anymore. We're going to make it harder for you to come into the country. Can you imagine the outrage that would have happened? That to me just screams like people don't understand like how tone deaf sometimes feminists can really be when it comes to issues like that.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't imagine the type of backlash that if that were here. Well, like how that. But to Sweden's point, they've always like been a country that, which is kind of crazy that they're saying that like accepted people from other immigrants. I guess that's the word you use, but yeah, I can't imagine what would happen if that happened here.
Yeah. So, but wrapping up the political side of things, let's jump over to hockey because we are conservative hockey talk. And as always, guys, if you guys have topics or questions or comments and stuff that you guys want for us to talk about or address, conservativehockeytalk@gmail.com is one of the ways you can get a hold of us, as well as hitting up the conservative hockey talk website, conservativehockeytalk.com. But yeah, let's jump over to the hockey side of things.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I'll start since they played my team last night. But last night, Mark Giordano of Seattle, he played his 1,000th game. And Wayne Simmons also played his 1,000th game over there in Toronto. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, Mark Giordano's always been I think he's always been a great player, mostly with Calgary and whatnot. I do feel like it's sort of weird seeing him in a Seattle jersey. I do feel like we're rapidly approaching a time. I think he'll be traded by the end of the season. I think that um, in Ron Francis choosing him at the entry draft, I think that he knew that Seattle wasn't going to be a good team right off the block. But I feel like that's a great ability to get like a second, maybe third pick in a decent prospect to sort of kind of start building that team up. Wayne Simmons being the longtime flyer now out Toronto Maple Leaf, it's really good to see him getting that recognition, being able to make it to 1,000 games. He's always been a great player. Who's had that knack for scoring the garbage goals and being able to be a little bit more physical. But both players are well respected in the NHL, and it's good on them.
Yeah, that's I mainly want to talk about Simmons because I mean it's crazy. He's not only does he have 1,000 games, but he's played on a handful of different teams. So
Yeah,
that just speaks to his versatility and just what he adds to the lineups. And he's been a perennial trade deadline acquisition for teams because of the type of style he plays. Um, and to hit 1,000 games, and it doesn't seem like he's slowing down. I mean, obviously the Maple Leafs will make the playoffs, so it'll be interesting to see how he performs with them because they have a great team up there. I mean, obviously, but yeah, every time I see a player's played 1,000 games, I always have to do the math in my head, right? I'm like, how many seasons was that? That's like
mm,
10, 11 seasons, and
yeah,
and then I feel old. Right, I'm like that's great, and it's starting to become. Before we know it, man, we're gonna blink, and it's gonna be players that we
yeah.
saw get drafted who are playing their 1,000th game. I think last night in the Capitals broadcast, they were talking about how either it was either going to be today or later this week on the what is it? It used to be Comcast Sports. Now I think they call it Fox Sports Washington. I don't know. They name change all the time. But the Capitals TV channel, they're going to be sitting down with Ovechkin and Backstrom and talking about how they've played like a
Oh,
thousand
that's
games
awesome.
together. Like just that number is insane to me. I couldn't imagine. But yeah, so with that too, I know we've both been harping on Montreal a lot, at least when before we kind of made the switch. But Marty St. Louis has looked pretty good for them. I think they've been 7-4 since he took over, and Cole Caulfield's been at a point a game
Yeah,
right around
I
there.
think Marty St. Louis was Cole Caulfield's like idol growing up. Cole Caulfield loved Marty St. Louis. So getting that rare opportunity to actually play for your idol, it's going to wake a whole another level for you. And I'm really glad to see him because he had a decent playoff run last year. Cole Caulfield did, So sort of kind of curious to see how his season started with him not really performing the way everyone thought he would. Now that he's sort of kind of able to uh, to score and the team's starting to win. But it isn't not just like Montreal to sort of kind of play themselves out of the potential first overall pick though. It's like so congratulations, you're gonna end up probably you're gonna win some games and probably end up fourth or fifth where you could have potentially just ended up first. I do know that they did just recently trade Ben Sherratt over to Toronto to try to, I believe it was for a second round pick and a prospect. So it's Montreal. I think is going to start this process within the next couple of days of maybe trading away a couple more players in efforts to really go full rebuild. But I think at this point in time, they already have at least like I want to say 3 or 4 first round picks. I know they have the Hurricanes coming up this year. Um, but yeah, it's good to see that the Canadians are getting some wins in. Give that fan base a little something to cheer for.
Yeah, and I'll kind of eat some crow on this too. I didn't think St. Louis was going to have that good of an impact. I didn't know what type of coach he was. He didn't have previous NHL coaching experience, but he seemed, and maybe it's still that initial like honeymoon period of you got a new coach and the players are playing for him. But I mean, so far so good up north. But also, I mean, I read, and I'm not sure if you saw this, because there's been obviously the trade deadline's coming up on the 21st, and the talk of been a couple goalies moving and stuff like that. But Fleury said that he wants to stay in Chicago. He doesn't want to uproot his family again. How do you feel about
Uh,
that?
I understand his thought process behind it. I think that Fleury knows that the tank is empty at this point. He has had a real season in Chicago. I don't think he wants the pressure to go to another team to be the guy just for it not to work out. I think it's sort of kind of let's be real here. He's won 2 cups, was it? And he's been to the Stanley Cup final what 4 or 5 times. He sort of kind of knows what type of player he has to be able to win it. And I just don't think he at this point in his career really wants to sort of kind of go through another run. When you already have 2 cups on your 2 cups to your name, is the third one really gonna set you up to some new height? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like it's just I sort of kind of get where he's coming from. If he much rather just finish in Chicago. I think is this on the final year of his deal? Does he have one more year?
I think this is it, and I think that was kind of why they were talking at the beginning of the season that he might not even play with
Yeah.
Chicago. He might just
Yeah,
call
no,
it
I think
quits.
I think that that's probably a good move for Marc Andre Fleury. He knows where he's at. I really think he does, and not to mention like what team is really you think he really ends up going. Like I know there was talks of maybe Washington, maybe Edmonton, um, and I just don't see either team him adding enough value to either team to get them over the hump. I just don't see that. What I really do see for Fleury is potentially him going to maybe back to Pittsburgh at the end of this year, and maybe a goalie coach there, or maybe going up to Montreal to be a goalie coach because he is French Canadian. That's sort of kind of where I see his path leading. I don't see him really wanting to go to another team to try to go through another cup run. I don't think he's got the. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Marc Andre Fleury. Just based on like what I've seen from him, it just seems like he's just sort of kind of trying to get through the season.
Yeah, to that point, I think it'd be kind of cool, and I think Penguins fans deserve it. Again, this is just spitballing. If maybe he did sign 1 year in Pittsburgh or ends up there for one final season, or even if it sign the contract and then retire a Penguin, because he was the backbone of that team for quite a while. And granted, he did well in Vegas those couple years, but like when you think Marc Andre Fleury, you
Yeah.
think Stanley Cup, and you think Pittsburgh, and I'm sure Pittsburgh Penguins fans would agree. With that though, too, something else that happened this week, and I was never a huge fan of this guy. Mainly because he was good, right? So and he didn't play for my team, so that's usually those are red flags right there. But Rick Nash had his jersey retired the other night by Columbus. Obviously obviously Columbus is still a relatively quote unquote new team compared to some of the others, and he's the first player they've retired. But I think that speaks to his career. Like I said, I wasn't really a fan when he was playing because he always lit Washington up. but I mean, the dude was a huge. He was like the
Hmm.
prototypical power forward. I think he was, the type of player that every team really wanted on their top line. And I'm sure you remember, that double toe drag goal he had. I want to say it was versus Phoenix, right around the same time Ovechkin had his falling on the back versus Phoenix too. So poor Coyotes, right? But yeah, I saw the ceremony for Rick Nash the other night, and that was pretty cool. It was cool to see him get that recognition, and I think it's cool for Columbus fans too because I mean, since his retirement, they've been and people forget what Nash
Hmm.
played a season or two with the Rangers, but again, sort of like
Yeah.
Fleury, he's always been Columbus to me. Um, so it's pretty cool for the fans of Columbus too, especially the ones who were there from the beginning, to see someone like Rick Nash, who was their team, had that jersey retirement, and now they have him in the rafters. And yeah, how do you feel about
How I
Rick
feel?
Nash?
I mean, it's Rick Nash. Decent player, I guess. I don't really feel one way or another about him. Really, he's a decent skater, decent player. Um, he it was for the longest time it was Stahl versus Nash whenever the Canes would play the Caps, or excuse me, against the Canes against the Blue Jackets. Um, and I feel like the fact that he always was good for at least one a goal or either assist or something every time he played the Canes. So he's definitely a great player and good on for Columbus for actually finding a player to stick with them long enough to actually retire a number. Uh, let's be real here. No one really wants to go to when they think make it to the NHL. No one really thinks Columbus. So, but yeah, it's good on him. Good on him.
Yeah, and I mean, just thinking now, like I can't really. I mean, I can't really think of someone who's currently playing who for the Jackets that would have another potential to have their jersey retired. I assume Liney would have been that guy if he was still there. But yeah. So I mean, it's cool. They finally got their one, and like I said, I think Columbus fans probably really enjoyed that night. Because and well deserved for Rick Nash too, because he carried that
Hmm.
franchise at the very beginning when they were fresh, and when they were struggling. Um, so yeah, I mean, I feel like one other thing, and then we could kind of jump to the prospective teams. But yeah, yeah. What are you doing in
Uh,
February of 2023? Because looks like we're going to an outdoor
it's
game,
going to be
bud.
very exciting. With both of us being in North Carolina and Dougie being a Caps fan and myself being a Canes fan. So seeing the outdoor game, that's gonna be a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So the NHL just announced that next year, February 18th, 2023, Caps Canes Stadium Series over at Carter Finley. I think it'll be a great time. Obviously, a lot of NHL arenas are in the middle of the city, but what makes Raleigh unique, and I think what makes it attractive, to Hurricanes fans, is that tailgating's huge here, obviously with the college football culture and stuff like that. And the arena and the stadium are right near each other, and they're basically perfect tailgating like area. So I think it'll be a blast. I think the NHL is really going to be able to set up, a great bunch of activities and stuff like that, and to have our two teams facing off, that'll be fun too. And I want to say around that time, so about a month ago, it was probably like 50 degrees. So I mean, they'll definitely be able to have ice in there, and it won't be too hot, and then it won't be too
Oh
cold, and
yeah.
it'll be a great way to enjoy a game. Um,
No, I was
to
just saying.
that point, go ahead.
I think it's going to be great weather. So North Carolina
Oh,
in late February is normally just
and
it's pretty solid weather compared to up north.
yeah, no chance of snow that day. I'd imagine, knock on wood. But to that too, though, my Caps got a pretty big win over your Hurricanes the other night, and took it's for a team which and I remember I was texting you like the Hurricanes were going to blow them out, but the Capitals have kind of like started to get healthy, and they notched um, 2 wins this week. So I mean, obviously one was for Seattle, but they started to get healthy and they started to improve, and the special teams is looking to get on point. So I'm pretty encouraged. The goaltending is still up in the air. Sammy was hurt. Vanacek had the last two starts and he's done well. So I'm looking forward to the playoffs starting to see what the Capitals can do. Um, I don't think they'll fall out. I think I honestly I still see a first round matchup between your Hurricanes and the Caps. But how the Hurricanes look
Well,
this
first and
week?
foremost, Tony
I already know how they looked
Tony
on earlier in
DeAngelo
the week, but
was hurt. I believe it was either last week or maybe like the Monday before the game against the Caps. So he didn't play, and with him being um, a very much a big part of our offensive plan. A 4-0 loss to the Caps of Washington wasn't really necessarily a big loss to me. It is what it is. I know that you're over here being a hype man, but yeah, no, it was what it was. Canes came out sort of looking flat and really weren't able to get themselves established and play their type of game. I do think that with Tony Angelo going down the way he did and whatnot, and the sort of crappy week that the Canes have had. Just not really playing great hockey, but still getting a win against uh, the Penguins a couple nights ago. I do think this is the Canes wake up call that like they need to sign Tony DeAngelo. If anyone's coming over from Flippin' Pucks podcast, I've been on this train and I will ride this train to the station because I do believe that Tony DeAngelo is very very important to the future of this franchise. Um, with all that being said, Frederick Anderson's been still playing lights out. So every so often he'll have a rough game, but he's become such a vital part of this team moving forward. Svechnikov had a great um, overtime goal to the Penguins. And Jordan Stahl finally, thank God, has had two goals against his former team in the Penguins. So the Canes are sort of kind of coming together in certain aspects of it. I'm perfectly okay with the Canes sort of kind of losing these games now, because even with having dropped it to the Caps and uh, dropping a couple games last week, they're still on top of the Metro, and I do believe that they are going to stay there. Um, it's going to be interesting this last month and a half because we do start playing a lot of Metro teams, a couple more times. I know that, Caps and Penguin, or excuse me, Caps and Canes play here in about what 2 weeks or so. That we'll play each other again, and I know that the Canes also have the Penguins again here shortly. So you're going to start playing the teams that you're more likely going to be seeing in the playoffs. So this hatred's going to really start more fuel to this fire, and we're really gonna start seeing how which teams are really ready for a deep playoff push, and which teams are gonna have to make moves at the trade deadline.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and it's funny you mentioned Frederick Anderson. I was talking to my brother yesterday, and I was like, because my brother's a Red Wings fan for people who don't know, so obviously the whole Nedeljkovic thing over the summer and stuff like that. But I was like, it has not slowed the Hurricanes down at all. Anderson has jumped in and has been absolutely amazing. Even just watching, even though I mean they took the loss versus Washington, he looked really good. I think that was a great signing. I don't think they're really regretting, the Nedeljkovic move or even letting Mrazek go up to Toronto. Like I think they found a really solid goaltender in Frederick Anderson, and he just seemed to fit right in and really help carry the team to probably, if not the top team, definitely top 2 or 3 in the league. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of pose one more question because I'm curious and since we kind of this is our first episode of Conservative Hockey Talk, I figured we'd get it on record. But gun to your head, who do you think's winning the Stanley Cup this year? Knowing what you know now, the season's a little over halfway. So
I could see the Hurricanes winning it. I could easily also see the Rangers winning it as well. Whoever team comes out of the Metro will win the Stanley Cup. It's either gonna be Canes or Rangers. I think that the Rangers have so much young talent that's already sort of kind of displaying the fact that they are ready to win now, that you can't overlook them for teams like the Hurricanes. And the Hurricanes have sometimes occasionally shown these games that just look like they're off, look like they're not either not prepared fully or that it's just they're not able to do what they need to do. And it's I think that the Canes will have to be active at the trade deadline. Um, there was talks of Clyde Giroux possibly. There's talks of Klinkberg and several other defensemen as well, possibly linked to coming over to the Hurricanes. But at the end of the day, I don't know how I feel about changing the defense too much because that means you're going to have to give up a prospect or a young player. That all being said, Marty Necas, if there is a player that's probably the bait right now and probably should be maybe a little bit higher up on the trade bait radar, it's probably Marty Necas. I think Necas had an off year. He's not looked the way as well as he needed to look. With all that being said, back to your original question of who's going to win the cup, I think this is all important. Sorry, monologuing. No, but I feel like this is important stuff because the Canes, if they're going to win the cup, they might have to say, hey, we're going to win at the cup this year. That means that maybe like we're only going to be our competitive window might be only for another 3 years and not necessarily another 7 or 8. Does that make sense? Like you're going to have to look for maybe a little bit shorter of a hole to win the cup. Because like, if you look at some of these teams that end up playing for playing for the Stanley Cup, there's only one team in recent memory that's really has really been there knocking on the door for 8 or 9 years, and that's the Tampa Bay Lightning. Who've pretty much consistently been right there. Eastern Conference Final, Stanley Cup, Eastern Conference Final, Stanley Cup champs. But as far as I'm concerned, I'd much rather the Canes win a cup and maybe close the window, and that's than opposed to not even getting it to the Eastern Conference Finals. What about you? Who's your go-to team?
I'm gonna stick with the Avs. I called them at the beginning. I'm gonna stick with them. I mean, I just think they're a great team, and they've also been tied to the Giroux rumors and stuff like that. I just think they have a really solid team. But it's funny you mentioned the Rangers because they were in the back of my mind as well. They've really turned it on. Their goaltending is absolutely amazing. I'm definitely looking forward to the March 21st, see what the trade deadline brings, to see if that changes my opinion or anything. But I think the Avs are an absolute wagon, and they've been for a top team for a little while now. So I do think and Kadri's having an absolutely amazing year. And he's been consistently having an amazing year. It's not like he's really had a drought at all, unlike Natchez. but but if I had to throw that one at you. But yeah, no, I think Colorado, and then if it's an Eastern team, probably the Rangers. I could also see Carolina winning. I believe in Rod Brindamore. He's a really really good coach. I think I think I've blown him every episode of flipping pucks. So Colorado, if I had to guess, but I could definitely see the Rangers or even Carolina pulling it out.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I do think this trade deadline is going to be really important as far as movements and whatnot. And last season I know the trade deadline wasn't nearly as exciting as everyone thought it was going to be. So it'll be interesting to see if this year maybe it's a little bit more. Last year with everything going on with COVID and the movement restrictions, where if you were a team in the States, you got traded to a team in Canada, you had to go through a 2 week quarantine time. So it'd be interesting to see sort of kind of how everything plays out differently this year. But I believe that's it. You have anything else you wanna add to wrap up the first ever
No,
episode
no,
of
I'm
Conservative
actually
Hockey Talk?
pretty excited to continue doing this. I feel like we touched on some pretty good topics, especially in the beginning there. And as the hockey season is getting toward the playoffs, we'll only have more to talk about there too. Everything in the world is going to shit, so we're definitely gonna continue to have a lot to come on there. And I look forward to kind of hearing your thoughts and opinions and kind of sharing this with all our listeners.
Yeah, guys, and like I said, we really appreciate everyone listening and whatnot. If you have any comments, questions, topics you want for us to hit, you can email us again at conservativehockeytalk@gmail.com. Um, we can visit our website, conservativehockeytalk.com, to visit our forums, read some of our blog posts and whatnot. We also are on Patreon as well. If you want to donate to the cause, get us a little bit better funding, or better yet, buy us a mic for Doug because sounding like a fucking robot over there.
or or a shirt with sleeves. Or a shirt with sleeves. Maybe I can afford a full shirt if you guys donate.
Alrighty, guys, this is Conservative Hockey Talk signing off. Have a good night.
Better.